Blog Talk Radio.
This is my auntie radio show, and you're listening to Intro to Info.
Intro to info. Intro to info.
This is Black Ass Mo. You're listening to Intro to Info on Blog Talk Radio.
It's still competitive, and I'm trying to compete with everybody, to be the best,
Mikeisha.
Yeah.
Do you really think you can be the best?
I know you don't expect me to say no right now.
Happy Friday, everybody, and thank you for joining me today for this very, very special tribute to the one and the only Phyllis Hyman. Co-hosted with me is her biographer, Jason A. Michael. Jason, say hello to the audience and to Intro to Info. Thank you for joining me today.
You're very welcome. What's up, audience? I just popped open a bottle of Moscato. We're going to have a great time. Give me a few minutes to get my drink on, and I'll tell you anything you want to know and more.
See, Jason, you cheating because you know what? If I had known we was going to be getting it in like that, I would have went to go get the Jack Daniels from upstairs, but I'm on focus. I know Phyllis will probably want me to get it popping too, but...
She sure would.
Oh, my God.
She'd want you to open some Stoli. That was her drink.
We love you. Listen, it has taken me over a month to compile the research for this tribute, and let me just say that I've been in school for a long time and researched a lot of different people, and she has been, like, by far the most fun person to read and interesting person to research. I mean, the story got better and better every day between reading the articles and listening to her interviews and watching her performances and the music. She was one of a kind. I don't understand why this woman did not get her just due, but if you listen to the story, you'll understand. You'll understand why she didn't get her just due. You might even understand the reasons behind the suicide. Of course, suicide is not the answer, but once you hear the things that she went through, you have a better understanding. I can guarantee that. And we're going to start from the beginning. Let's start with what the name Phyllis means. In Greek mythology, the character Phyllis killed herself because she thought a man wouldn't come back, ironically enough. Jason.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know about the Greek mythology meaning behind Phyllis?
No, that's news to me, but it's right on point.
Ain't that something?
Mm-hmm.
And starting from Jump Street, Phyllis Linda Hyman was named after her parents. Her father was Philip, and he was a barber, and her mother was Linda. So Phyllis Linda Hyman. And ironically enough, she's from Philadelphia. So all that ties in. It's a lot of things that tie in for the life of Phyllis Hyman. She was born July 6, 1949, and she's the eldest of seven. Seven, right, Jason?
That's right.
She's the eldest of seven. And this is the interesting thing. If you were to listen to her, you would think that she's been trained vocally, and she was for a minute, but she didn't listen to music coming up. She didn't have a record player. And so this was hers. This was not just her talent. This was her gift.
It was her gift. She had a natural musicality. It was God-given.
Yes, indeed. And Jason, is there anything you can offer as her upbringing?
Well, she had a rough upbringing, to be honest. Her father suffered with alcoholism. Her mother suffered with depression and other mental health issues and wasn't always able to be the caregiver that Phyllis needed. As a result, Phyllis was able, as the oldest of seven children, to sort of try to run things her way, try to run her siblings. And she saw that her father sort of mistreated her mother, and unconsciously, she mimicked that behavior and didn't treat her mother as well as she should have, and that was something that she felt deeply sorry for later in life. So it was a rough upbringing.
Wow. Okay. Wow. And she had just one brother or two brothers?
Two brothers.
Two brothers. It was Michael and
Mark.
Okay, Michael and Mark, and the rest were a lot of her sisters look a lot like her.
They do, especially Jeannie. Jeannie looks. When I first met Jeannie in person, it was eerie, and she sounds like her on the phone, too.
Isn't that something? If you guys watched the Unsung episode, of course, they had to edit it down to 1 hour, but we're going to go deeper than scratching the surface. There's so much more to her than what Unsung. They did a good job. However, she was much more complex of an individual than they had time to really get into with that 1 hour they were allotted. I'm allotted too, so we gonna keep it rocking. Now, when Phyllis first got on the scene, she was working with groups like the PH Factor and 2 or 3 other groups.
She started singing with other groups, and then she formed her own, the PH Factor. She was the band leader for that band, and she was the star of the show. And it didn't take long before she didn't need any band behind her. She was doing her own thing. She was doing it.
There was Sounds of Ebony. That was one of the groups, and All the People was another, and then PH Factor. And one of the things that Unsung, one of the band members said that he can't remember any gigs that they auditioned for that they did not get.
Right.
So that gives you a clue of just the talent that we're talking about here.
She was a dynamic live performer, and she was visually stunning, so no one was going to turn her down. It was easy for her to get gigs.
Ain't no lie. And the fact that she was Italian and black, she was mixed. That's part of the reason why those features, she's huge eyes, big lips, very tall. She was 6'1", and she wasn't a skinny gal.
She went up and down in her weight. She had her moments where she was actually a skinny gal, but weight was an issue for her. She struggled with food addiction, and so her weight was an issue for her. And in her later years, she became much larger, and that, of course, was part of her depression.
Indeed. So I see my chat room is filling up. I want to give a special shout-out to the Penthouse, who welcomed me with open arms. Give a special shout-out to Ashley and everybody, some of my friends who are listening who I probably don't recognize in the chat room. Thank you for kicking it with Jason and I. If you don't know who Jason is, he is the man who wrote Phyllis's biography entitled Strength of a Woman.
That's right. Strength of a Woman, the Phyllis Hyman story, and my website is www.phyllishymanstory.com, so please check me out.
There it is. So, okay, let's move forward. After she was with all the groups, she had gotten a record deal with Arista Records and, of course, Clive Davis.
She first got a record deal with Buddha, and then it wasn't long after by the time she was working on her second album, Buddha got absorbed by Arista, so she was reporting to Mr. Clive Davis.
She was reporting to Mr. Clive Davis, and wait till y'all hear this story. Okay, one of her first songs was, one of her most mainstream, one of the first ones was You Know How to Love Me, but before that you had Betcha by Golly Wow, which is a remake that she'd done, and other songs, but You Know How to Love You was more so disco and upbeat. And Phyllis did not feel like that was her strength. She didn't want to do that type of music. And that's the beginning of her and Clive Davis clashing, because Clive Davis is a control freak. Phyllis Hyman is a control freak. And so you had that dynamic. And this continued. He had her singing this song called Riding a Tiger. It really was not suited for her. However, the type of music that she wanted to sing was not radio friendly. She wanted to do the heartbreak, woe is me, he done cut up my clothes, right, Jason?
Well, Phyllis Hyman and Clive Davis were a marriage made in hell. It just didn't work. She signed with Buddha Records because Buddha was a very small label and she felt comfortable in small spaces. But when Buddha got absorbed by Arista, suddenly she was a little fish in a big pond, and she didn't get the type of attention that she felt she needed. And everyone, of course, the goal was to get Phyllis Hyman a hit record, but the process of getting a hit does not always take into account an artist's artistry, their individuality. It's all about trying to get you with what's current at the moment, and that doesn't always take into account the artistry that an artist possesses. So it was a rough and rocky road. They tried many different approaches. It was a strange era in music. The disco era sort of displaced a lot of R&B and soul vocalists, for a minute. So it was a combination of factors. The era in which she came up, ending up with Clive Davis as her boss, it just was a lot of factors that sort of worked against Phyllis when she was making her debut in music.
Exactly. And at the time, Jason, Clive had also signed Aretha, Dionne Warwick. When there was Phyllis before all of them, was she signed?
She was before them, yes.
Okay. But again, she had to go to Arista. That wasn't the original plan. She was on Buddha, and Arista bought out Buddha, and so that's how she ended up on Arista. Okay. And so you have these divas who I guess Phyllis at some point had to be competing against. And I don't know who of them had a personality as strong as she did, because she just did not want to do that type of music. And I don't know how deep they got into deep current. Clive got it too. Go ahead,
Phyllis
Jason.
was also vying for the attention of the people in Arista because Clive did sign those big names like Aretha Franklin and Dionne Warwick, who were, of course, stars and legends at that point already, and were getting a lot of the label's attention. So Phyllis had to fight for attention and maybe sometimes got the leftovers because all of the attention was going to the stars already. So she also had Angela Bofill on the label who sang a very similar style of music. So those two sort of, got unintentionally in competition with one another. So there were a lot of factors, as I said, going on that made that not a good fit for her. There was also, you mentioned briefly, control freaks. Control was a big factor for Phyllis. Phyllis had to always feel she was in control of her surroundings and her circumstance, and would sometimes sabotage opportunities if it meant regaining what she thought was control of the situation. So rather than maybe, say, demurring to Clive and doing things his way just until she got herself established, there was friction from the jump because she didn't like the idea of this man sort of controlling her and her destiny and telling her what she should record and what she should do. And she just wasn't able, it wasn't in her to sort of play the game and do what she needed to do to make it happen, to get her into the position where she could then be in control and call the shots. She had to call the shots herself from jump, and sometimes that was to her own detriment.
Oh, yeah, exactly right. Jason had done another interview a few years back, and Jason, one of the things that you said that is while writing the book Strength of a Woman, that you had to go inside of Phyllis's mind. And throughout this month of my research, I had to do the same thing. And I said to myself, I have got to get this episode out because I was depressed because of all of the things. If anybody in the audience doesn't need research on Phyllis, you will see what me and Jason are talking about. I mean, like my friends would say, you're not yourself today. And as much as I grew to love her, it also was a very dark and difficult place mentally.
Mikeisha, you did that for a month. Imagine I spent 5 years inside the mind of Phyllis Hyman trying to understand this lady. And her reality and my reality started to blur. And I wasn't sure on certain days if what I was feeling or experiencing were my own feelings or Phyllis's feelings. And it was sometimes a very dark and scary place to be, but I thought it was part of the necessary process to sort of understand this woman and write this woman's story, was to try to get inside this woman's mind. But Phyllis Hyman's mind was not a good place to be at times.
Ain't no lie. But at the same time, I grew to love her. I mean, one thing I like about her that reminded me of me is she said what she felt. No matter how controversial or argumentative she may have made herself to be, she just said what she felt. I mean, some of the Donnie Simpson interviews and some of the radio interviews. Let me give you an example. So Phyllis had been celibate for several years on and off. Follow me, Jason. Right, Jason?
Oh, yes. I know just what you're going to talk about.
And I don't understand why, because Phyllis was a bad man pajama. Some of my friends don't know they just know who she is because of me. Y'all go look at some pictures of Phyllis Hyman. She was a good looking woman. So anyway, she would be celibate for years, and one of the interviewers asked her, Phyllis, don't you want sex sometimes? And she said something in the order of, I'm taken care of. I'm not having any human contact, but I'm taken care of. And so the guy said, she said, you know what I mean? And the guy said, no, I don't know what you mean. She said, a vibrator. So it was just stuff like that really, she just was very honest.
Phyllis was very blunt. That's what made her fans love her. That's what made her so charming. But again, also from a career standpoint, that's what sometimes made her unpredictable and, again, sabotage some opportunities because she didn't know sometimes when it was appropriate to say these things and when perhaps her best course of action would have just been to keep a lid on it and keep her mouth shut. So we haven't really discussed Phyllis's mental health issues yet, but, Phyllis did suffer from bipolar disorder. And that's a very common factor from those who suffer from bipolar disorder, myself included, as I do suffer from a form of bipolar disorder. We're sort of missing that filter in our brains that allows us to process things before we say them. And it's out of our mind before we really thought about it. So it made her hilarious, hysterical. It made her a lot of fun. But, sometimes if you're dealing with a Clive Davis, as we were just talking about, you maybe want to think a little bit before you speak and be careful what you say to him. But that was something Phyllis was not capable of.
Exactly. And I want to let my audience know that there are 4 types of bipolar. And different characteristics put you in one of the quadrants if you were to have this disorder. But yes, you're right. We will get deeply into her mental illness, which was the reason for a lot of her detriments and her ultimate suicide. But ironically enough, okay, Phyllis committed suicide, but a lot of her song titles had the word life in them, like leaving the good life behind, prime of my life, living in confusion, living all alone.
Sunshine in my life. Sunshine in my life.
Yep, Sunshine in my life. And ironically, she had an album called Prime of My Life. What does that mean? Prime of My Life is like the best years of my life. And then just 4 years after that, she makes the decision to commit suicide.
Yeah, Prime of My Life was a good time for Phyllis. It's when she got her first #1 record, her first and only #1 record. So it was a reinvigoration of Phyllis and her career. But as with Phyllis, sometimes even the good times were scary for Phyllis. That control thing would kick in again, and sometimes when things were going too good for Phyllis, that frightened her again. And you wonder, how long is it going to go good? Do I deserve what's happening to me? Am I going to lose this? It creates its own set of fears, and that was often the case with Phyllis. The good times could be just as scary as the bad times to her. So, Prime of My Life, she wanted to make the statement that she was in her prime, that she was a proud, successful woman, but lots of times with Phyllis, it was about an image she wished to project, but that wasn't always what was really going on with her or where she was at. She wanted to project a certain image to her fans as a role model to them, but that wasn't always where she was. Phyllis's life was a lot of ups and downs, so there were a lot of peaks and valleys, and it was oftentimes about trying to send a message and not always reflecting what was really going on with her at the time.
You ain't never lied. And around this time, what year was it, Jason, that she married Larry Alexander?
Okay, the wine's starting to kick in. It was the late 70s. They were together actually for several years before they got married, and they actually told people they were married before they actually got married. But I want to say it was somewhere in 76, 77 they actually tied the knot.
Okay, Larry Alexander and Phyllis Hyman get married, and they had on-again, off-again relationship within their marriage, because I can remember one person saying they would go into their house and there were verbal disagreements, and Phyllis said that she woke up from a party in stupor with Larry and say, hey, I don't think we love each other anymore. Wow.
Yeah, their relationship, like most of Phyllis's relationships, was tumultuous. When Larry first came on the scene, that was back when she was with the PH Factor, she wouldn't let the man have any sort of involvement at all in her career. He could really do nothing more for her than drive her to gigs, because Phyllis Hyman didn't drive. But eventually she allowed him more and more control, and he became her manager. And when she started recording music, he became her producer. And so, anytime you have that sort of relationship where the lines are blurred between business and personal, right, that can be trying. And Phyllis, as a lot of people told me in the course of writing the book, she could sometimes be a difficult woman to love. And so her relationship with Larry was very tumultuous, and that sounds just like something Phyllis would say. I woke up and realized we're not in love no more, and so they did divorce, and he tried to get a little bit of a settlement from Phyllis, which she wasn't very happy about, but she gave him a little bit of money, and she moved on.
There it is. We got Tammy Jones Gibbs in the chat room. Tammy says, Phyllis Hyman, she was one of my favorite singers. I saw Phyllis Hyman perform live at the Apollo Theater in 91. What's up, Tammy? She also spoke. If you guys have anything that you want to say regarding legacy, life, music, or anything regarding Phyllis Hyman that's positive, please call 347-327-9592. I got Jason A. Michael on the line with me. He wrote her biography, Strength of a Woman, her authorized biography. Speaking of the biography, Jill Scott recently bought the rights to Phyllis Hyman's life. Jason, what you know about that?
Well, I know it was a surprise to me when I read in the May issue of Ebony magazine that Jill Scott had bought the rights to do the Phyllis Hyman story. I'm not sure what rights she bought. She didn't buy the rights to my book, however, yet. I'm just assuming that maybe my phone call is going to be forthcoming. That sister's going to give me a call and tell me she wants to buy the rights to my book, because I just can't imagine anybody making a film about Phyllis Hyman without reading the Phyllis Hyman story. And I can't imagine anyone reading the Phyllis Hyman story without being influenced by it and using it in their work, in their movie. So I know she's going to be utilizing my book. It's pretty much impossible not to. So I think Jill Scott's a pretty upright woman. I think she's going to do the right thing, and I'm just waiting to hear from her any day.
Exactly. And when I was doing my research this past month, a lot of the people were referencing Jason's book. I say most of the people that most of the stuff I read probably was, even Wikipedia referenced your book, Jason, and so it's official. You know, Jason did interviews with all 6 of Phyllis's siblings, and he spoke to her estate at the time.
Her management, her family, her siblings, all, band members, lovers, fiancés, you name it. I dug up everyone I could dug up to try to get as much understanding about this woman as I possibly could. So, like I said, it was a 5-year journey working on this book. It took me 5 years to complete it, and I poured my heart and soul into it, and I'm very proud of the result. I've gotten a lot of wonderful feedback, people telling me how much they enjoy it, that it's helped them to get a better understanding of Phyllis and her struggles, helped them to make peace with the decision she ultimately made to end her life. So I just felt it was ordained by the universe for me to write this story. And a lot of things tried to stop me. A lot of other people said they had books coming out. A lot of people told me not to do it. But I just pressed on. I thought it was meant for me to do, and I did it. And I'm very proud of what I did.
I'm proud of you, too. You guys visit PhyllisHymanStory.com there's some audio on there. There's also some media. Please check it out. Diva Diamond said, great show. Loving the information, Jason. This is Sonia Freeman from the Penthouse group on Facebook. What's up, Penthouse? Me and Jason say what's up.
What's up, Penthouse?
Yes, thank you for tuning in. So, okay, we were just talking about Larry, and we're going to jump right on into the Sophisticated Ladies era. Sophisticated Lady was a Broadway play dedicated to Duke Ellington.
Duke Ellington.
Mm-hmm. And Clive, he said, no, Phyllis, no, don't do that. Phyllis said, what? I'm going to do it anyway. Who you talking to?
Well, again, it's one of those things, I can see both sides of the story. Mm-hmm. He was really trying to launch her music career. He was really trying to get her that hit and that stardom in the music industry. And so he looked at Phyllis doing Broadway as something that was going to take significant time away from her trying to promote her musical career. At the same time, Phyllis saw the opportunity to start on Broadway in a musical tribute to Duke Ellington as an opportunity too good to pass up. So I can sort of see where both people were coming from. It was a great opportunity for her. She received a Tony nomination and a Theatre World Award. But at the same time, it didn't allow her to put the attention into her music career that perhaps her music career was calling for, because she was not established yet, and there was that goal to get her that hit, to get her established, and you can't do that when you're working, 8 shows 6 days a week.
Exactly, and altogether they did 767 shows, and the show ran for 2.5 years. And by the time it was over, Phyllis said, I'm so tired of the theater and all. She was tired of it, I tell you. And right after that was around the time, around circa 1985, that she had begun to go to therapy sessions, because a lot of her people that were surrounding her were noticing mood swings. And so she would go to therapy over and over again, and her therapist diagnosed her with bipolar in 1985.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her therapist was Dr. Portia Hunt, who I also interviewed for the book, and who gave me some great insight to Phyllis's psyche. Phyllis was in and out of therapy for years, but again, even in therapy, she couldn't sometimes release that control, and she could only go so far into dissecting her issues before the pain was sort of too great, and she put a wall up. Phyllis, there was a lot of deep pain inside of Phyllis. There were a lot of deep pain, and you have to get in it to go through it. You have to really get in there, and Phyllis tried to avoid doing that. She didn't really want to get to the root of her pain. She wanted to bypass it, and I've said the moral of Phyllis Hyman's story is either you take care of your issues or your issues will take care of you. And unfortunately, that's really what happened in Phyllis's case.
Yeah, exactly. It's a known fact about Phyllis, not a really known fact, but she is the third cousin to Earl Hyman, who played Russell Huxtable on The Cosby Show, who was Bill Cosby's father on the show. Phyllis' third cousin.
Right.
Yes, indeed. So, someone said, let me go back to this quote. I'm trying to find it. Lord, okay, I don't know, but anyway.
You sure you ain't been drinking, Mikeisha? You sure you ain't dipped into something?
Not right now. I did some last night, but not today.
Okay,
I wanted to focus on Phyllis. I didn't want to be all drunk and be all don't know what I'm talking about.
All right, okay.
You're so crazy. So, okay, around I forgot to say, just before she was diagnosed with bipolar, she was dropped from Arista Records by Clive Davis.
Yes, she was released from Arista. Right at about the same time, Arista made another signing from a young artist named Miss Whitney Houston, and that was a bitter pill for Phyllis to be let go at the same time that Whitney Houston was signed. And a lot of people thought that if she and Clive could have gotten on the same page and gotten along, that she could have gotten all the attention that Whitney got and could have became the star that Whitney became, because Phyllis's talent was limitless. She was beautiful, and so it was very bitter for her to be dropped from the label, only to watch Whitney Houston, working with some of the same producers that Phyllis had worked with, succeed and become a superstar.
Interesting. Jason, in all my research, I didn't see anything that Phyllis felt about Whitney or vice versa. Was there ever any meeting of the two? Did she have feelings about Whitney or what?
She was bitter a bit toward Whitney because she thought she should have been Whitney in a way, or could have been Whitney in a way. So she had some bitterness toward Whitney, to keep it real.
Okay. Understandable point taken, but what I concluded from the research is that Whitney was more. I love Whitney, but she was more so willing to do what Clive said without argument. She was young, and in the future, her and Clive had their clashes, but in the beginning, he was just what she wanted. As far as as far as the research I've done on Whitney.
Like I said, there was some bitterness there, and I can understand that. Phyllis would look at the situation and say, "Why not me? Why her and not me?" Phyllis, when she was in a depressed cycle, when she was down, she would sort of feel like why I'm not good enough, my voice is nothing special, I don't deserve to be a star. And then when she would be on the upside of the bipolar cycle, she would be frustrated that she wasn't getting more attention, that she wasn't a bigger star, that she wasn't being recognized for her talent. So she was very hot and cold on the issue. And when you see someone like Whitney Houston come up on the same label that you just were released from, working with the same producers you worked with, become a mega star, that has to play with you a bit, and you have to say, why not me? What does she have that I don't? And I think a lot of Phyllis's hardcore fans would ask that question too. Why? What Phyllis Hyman had it all, yet she just never got the due that she was deserving of.
Exactly. During a lot of her songs when she was recording, because her songs were from the heart, a lot of them were emotionally charged songs. She would be crying in the studio, and she would actually have to walk away from the whole studio and just gather herself. And in the Live in the Confusion video, she actually is crying. So, go ahead.
Phyllis put her everything into her music, and she, by the time she had gotten to Philadelphia International Records in 1985, she was in a position to more so sing her truth, and they worked more so to match her up with music that she could relate to, that was about her, that she identified with, that was tailor-made for her, for the most part. So a lot of these songs, if Phyllis didn't have a hand in writing them, they were written specifically for her, Living in Confusion, Living All Alone. Right. They were songs that Phyllis, they were her truth. She sang her truth. And sometimes singing that truth could be overwhelming for her, such as the song Old Friend, which was a big Phyllis Hyman hit. That caused her to think of all the friends she had lost. And so it was very difficult for her to sometimes get through that song without breaking down.
Old Friend, that was written by Linda Creed, right?
And Tom Bell, it sure was.
Yep, and Linda Creed suffered from some type of cancer, and about 12 years she had it. She would call Phyllis as her days started to dwindle, and it really took its toll on Phyllis. She was really moved to tears. Linda Creed meant a lot to her.
And it was Linda Creed, and the song also took on a larger meaning. You know, anytime Phyllis lost a friend, Phyllis lost many friends to AIDS and HIV, and the song just sort of took on an emotional weight for Phyllis that it made her think of all these losses in her life.
Right. She was very much a empathizer. She one of the things that I really respect about her is that she has started a company, and most of her employees were African American, and she did that by design because she said that we have so much talent, but a lot of the times people look out for their own, so to speak, and she wanted to make sure that some of her people got hired. So she was saying how Glenda, who was her manager and attorney, right, Glenda Garcia?
Yes.
Glenda, she was just naming her staff and the fact that they were African American, and then she went on to mention the fact that Diana Ross and Tina Turner didn't have much of a black staff at all, and she said, you know, why is that? Why can't we look out for our own once we reach a certain level with a hierarchy?
Yeah, she called them out. She did call people out. She was good for calling out other celebrities. Again, maybe not always the wisest strategy, but she was a very proud black woman, and she was very proud to have a black-owned business that had a lot of black folks working for it, and she very much believed in supporting her community and her own people. Yeah,
and Glenda said one thing. Glenda said Phyllis loved drama. I was like, wow. And I want to, Jason, because you have a story about what made you start your research on her, and I have mine, and I'm going to say mine, and I want you to tell yours also. The day that she died, I was over my grandfather's house, and my grandfather was dying. I think it was the last time I saw him alive. He had blood coming out of his mouth, and he told me to take care of myself. And everybody was gathered around talking about this lady named Phyllis Hyman and how she was so beautiful and how she killed herself. And I was, how old was I, 95? Like 8 or 9 years old. And so I had never heard of her. It just basically went in one ear and out the other. But as years went on, my father would play her songs in the car, and I said, she can sure enough sing.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, and so I was, one day, recently, I was looking for music to put on the show, and You Know How to Love Me came to mind. I said, wait a minute, she killed herself. And that's what triggered me wanting to do more research, and it has been a roller coaster ride. I have enjoyed her life as a whole, even though it wasn't easy. So, Jason, tell us what made you want to start doing research on Phyllis?
Well, at the time Phyllis took her life, I was living in Miami working for soul singer Betty Wright, the cleanup woman. Betty had known Phyllis since the early 70s, and I saw that Betty was devastated by the loss, but not at all surprised at the way Phyllis's death had come about. She was not surprised Phyllis chose to take her own life. And I think my journalistic instincts kicked in and said, there must be a story there. Mm-hmm. And I started researching her the first time shortly after she died in 1995. I didn't get very far. I picked up the project again about 1998. Didn't get very far. Again, I was told by Phyllis's estate that they had their own book forthcoming, so I shouldn't worry about writing one of my own. So I waited on that. And then about 2002, it had been 7 years since Phyllis passed, and no book had come out, and it dawned on me if I wanted to read a book about Phyllis Hyman, I was going to have to write a book about Phyllis Hyman. Mm-hmm. And I just went back to it for the third time, and it took me 5 years, as I said, but I did it. I did what I felt I was called to do, and I wrote the Phyllis Hyman story.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that I was able to connect with you. And ironically, Unsung came on last night at this very same time, and
yes, it did.
I did not plan for that. I feel like my best friend said, you done called up her spirit. I said, you are so crazy. But as long as she's happy and smiling from where she is, that's the goal here. And to get people to know who she is, because she's underrated. She's unsung, but she ain't like she can't sing because she can sing, but she's just unsung.
Right.
You can dig it, Jason.
I can dig it, definitely. She's the queen of unsung. No one was more unsung than Phyllis Hyman. There's no greater talent that received less recognition than she did.
I ain't lying. I got some people talking in the chat room, and if you guys want to call up here, shout out to the Penthouse again. You want to call 347-327-9592 is the number. I have Phyllis's biographer on the phone, Jason A. Michael. He wrote her biography called Strength of a Woman. just got to keep plugging it, just for people who are just coming in. Thank you guys for listening. Okay. Let's talk about, we just got we were just talking about the Sophisticated Ladies, and who we had, Jason, about?
We just had her signed to Philadelphia International Records. We were just talking about her being dropped from Arista and watching Whitney Houston rise to fame.
Yes.
So I think we made it to about 1985.
Okay. I want to say that shout out to James Mtume, I don't know how to pronounce that, and Reggie Lucas for writing You Know How to Love Me, because that song is just...
It's a jam.
Right, even though her niche was ballads, she sang the fuck out of You Know How to Love Me. And
can you say that on the radio? You can say that on Blog Talk Radio, Mikeisha.
Listen.
I swear you've been drinking. You say you ain't, but I swear you are over here cussing up a storm. Phyllis would just love it.
I'm on a natural high. Just like I want to cry because she went through so much, but it's just coming out of me. It's just oozing out of me just to talk about her. I'm a little nervous, but I'm so inspired by her life. Okay. Oh, let me tell you the story about You Know How to Love Me. You probably know this, but James Ntume he said, I want you to sing this really long note in the middle of the song. And she was getting mad because it was a really like an unusually long note. And she was so mad by the time she had done it, he said, that's exactly what I want. After she had gotten like really frustrated, she had done exactly what he asked her to do. So that's just a little fact about You Know How to Love Me. And he's the same producer who did with Stephanie Mills. Never knew love like this before. Mm-hmm. Never knew love like this before. And if you listen to both of those songs back to back, you can hear the similarities, and you can tell it's the same producer.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I just want to give a big shout out to You Know How to Love Me. Love that song. All right, so Philadelphia International about circa 85, Jason. Let's see, is that Norman Connors? No,
Norman Connors was Bitchin' by Golly Wild back in 77. Okay. No, she signed with Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff at Philadelphia International Records in 1985. Again, on a small record label. She felt comfortable in small spaces, and they worked very hard to tailor-make some music for her. However, by 1985, Philadelphia International Records was not sort of the powerhouse hit factory it had been in the late 70s when it had the OJs and all those great stars. So they were struggling. They got a new distribution deal with Manhattan Records, and this was supposed to be the second wave, the second coming of Philadelphia International Records. They had signed Phyllis along with Linda Jones of the Jones Girls, and it was a great album. The album was definitely the truest Phyllis Hyman sound that had been heard thus far, and but again, commercially, Phyllis Hyman staying true to herself didn't necessarily result in hit records, and she couldn't get past that number 12. That was a lucky or unlucky number for her, depending upon how you looked at it, and she couldn't get past number 12. She couldn't really get the hit that she wanted and needed and was so deserving of. And instead, Linda Jones got a number one record with Do You Get Enough Love? Mm-hmm. So it was a great record. Sold better than most Phyllis Hyman records, but didn't go gold at the time, and still didn't get exactly where Phyllis's fans were hoping it would get to.
Right. We got Wanda Woods in the chat room, and she said her favorite venue was the Blue Note. My ex-husband and I always got the front row seats. She took off those pumps and sucked on her honey candy, and the band gave us Fire Girl. And Diva Diamond responded, I hate that I never got to see her perform live. Oh, Wanda, thank you for the facts. Wanda, if you you guys are typing so fast. But okay, great. Let's see. We are okay. Yeah. So this is around the time when she was in School Days with Spike Lee.
That was 1988, I believe. So you just racing through these years. That was about 1988, I think she was in School Days.
It's like I have the facts, but the years connected to the facts, they're a little discombobulated. I'm sorry, Phyllis. Somebody in the chat room said, I'm so glad that somebody's finally telling the truth about this woman and giving her the recognition. Of course, that was the goal. I promoted this to Blog Talk for a minute, and it's important that y'all know the story behind the story, not just the surface, so that y'all won't just think that she's somebody who just randomly up and killed herself. No, it's understandable if you know the whole story.
Where is the chat room, Mikeisha? What chat room is this you keep referring to?
Jason, I don't know how you'll be able to do it, but go to the link that I gave to you, the exact link, and come and scroll down. But I don't know if you'll be able, I think you will be hearing the show. You might have to turn your volume down on your computer.
Okay.
But
all right.
Okay, when you get to the actual link of the show, scroll all the way down and you should see the chat room.
Okay, I'll try to find it.
Okay, and if you have any trouble, I'll hook you up with some more. Okay, let's talk about Somewhere in My Lifetime and the collaboration with Barry Manilow, which was a beautiful song.
Now you racing back in time. That was 1978. We just skipped a decade. We went from 88 back to 78. We just racing all across the board. But Somewhere in My Lifetime, I'll go with it. I'll go with the flow. Somewhere in My Lifetime was produced by Barry Manilow. It was a very beautiful, touching, haunting ballad. But again, it was not very commercial. It wasn't very radio friendly. And it came out in the era when everything was disco and dance music. And it didn't get past. I think that was number 12 too. I think that got stuck at number 12 as well, and it didn't get Phyllis the hit they were looking for. But it was a great song, and a lot of people thought the collaboration between Phyllis and Barry Manilow was a little strange, but it actually worked out very well.
Right, have her work with Barry Manilow. Diva Diamond said, "I loved her in School Days." What is it? One is one of my favorite songs.
B1. Mm-hmm.
Oh, B1. Oh, yeah, B1 is one of my favorite songs by her, Got You. And Barry Manilow was a huge fan of Phyllis Hyman. Yeah, I saw a picture of them on the piano together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God. Let's talk about Phyllis Hyman's temper. Phyllis Hyman would go off, cuss your ass out. Oh, and when she was released from Arista, she cussed Clive Davis' ass out. That's what I read. I don't know how true it is, but I heard they were at a board meeting or something, and she cussed him out, called him all types of the F words, and I heard she went off on Clive.
Well, I don't know that she ever did in person or to his face, but certainly she took every opportunity that she was afforded in the press to diss Clive Davis, especially when the first Philadelphia International Records came out and she was doing interviews in press to promote that record. She would compare Clive Davis and Arista Records to her experience with Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff at Philadelphia International, and basically say, I finally know what it feels like to be the real record label where people really have respect for my talent, and she would sock it to Clive whenever she could.
I heard that, and she said of her theater experience that she's more so of a simple girl, and she was working alongside Gregory Hines, and said how talented he was. She said she would go off stage and just watch him and be in awe. Like, how does he have so much raw talent? Well, she had just as much raw talent as Gregory Hines. But she said of the other theater workers that they demanded all this special treatment and they need to relax and meditate. She said, "Child, I don't know why they need to do all that. It's not that serious." She said the theater people thought they were so special and stuff. I was cracking up. For the time that you on something.
Phyllis had her own approach, and she didn't understand sometimes, what some of the method actors, their approach to performing. Phyllis would sometimes, especially the matinee performances, she'd rush in late. They'd actually hold the show up, waiting for her to get there because they didn't want to put the understudy on. And, she'd run in and run out on stage, just as frazzled as can be, but she'd sing the hell out of her songs, and no one would know that she had just, held the show up because she had overslept. Phyllis didn't need much preparation. She could just come out and get to it.
Okay. Somebody just texted me and said you echoing, Jason. You guys, is Jason echoing?
I heard myself echo for a second, but I don't hear it now, so I'm hoping that it's gone.
Okay, good. All right. I loved her work with Grover Washington and Lonnie Liston Smith. That was very jazzy performances. But we're going to get back to the tempo in a second, though. She was a fireball, but I know I'm jumping all over the place, y'all, but this is very impromptu. This is, how Phyllis would have a request section in her show. Mm-hmm. They didn't know what she was going to get asked to sing. That's how I'm going to do this. I wanted to kind of play this by ear and not have so much structure. Just talk candidly about Phyllis Hyman because I'm so inspired by her, you guys. So excuse the jumping around. But I'm just very inspired by her. In fact, let's go back to the temple because Phyllis, the guy Leo Lord, he said he went on the road with her. He said I had to pull Phyllis off of a lot of people. Like literally, I guess she had tried to fight somebody or something a couple of times.
Yeah, Phyllis was a wild child, and Leo Lord was her right-hand man on the road, and he looked out for her. He loved her. She loved him, and I can see that happening. You know, Phyllis had a hair trigger temper, and she can go off on you in the drop of a dime, and so I can see him having to sort of pull her off and calm down the situation many times.
Yes, there was this one other story about a DJ in D.C. had said she did a speaking engagement and they wanted to feed her afterwards. I read this on the Penthouse. Shout out to the Penthouse. They wanted to feed her afterwards, and so they asked her management what was her favorite food. The management said KFC. So they went and got Phyllis a 4-piece, and they gave it to her after the speaking engagement. And Phyllis said, "Oh, what's this?" And they said, "This is your favorite." She said, "Go back and get the bucket, honey." Phyllis said, "Go get the bucket." So it's just a cute little story. She was a trip. I love it. And also they would say, and another way I feel connected to her is because I'm from D.C., and I had no clue that she spent so much time in D.C., particularly Georgetown and Northeast. Mm-hmm. And this restaurant called Florida Avenue Bar and Grill, and they said Phyllis would call them before she got there and pre-order her chitlins. Mm-hmm. Pre-ordered the chitlins. Phyllis loves some food, child.
Phyllis did love some food, and she did love some chitlins, and you couldn't come between Phyllis and her food. Her food was more precious to her than jewels, and you know, Phyllis loved her food, and it showed.
Yeah.
She loved to throw down.
I remember I saw her at her heaviest in late '94 when she sang a cappella, "I Refuse to Be Lonely." She was really heavy at that time. Oh, and this one interview she did, where she was snapping at the guy. He was asking her questions. She said, "Oh, that's in the bio, honey. You get to the good stuff," or something like that. She said, "That's in the bio." To be real short, she was putting on makeup as he was interviewing her. She was putting it on real hard. And that's one of the most aggressive I had ever seen Phyllis. I was laughing. It was about '94. So '94 is when I started to see the beginning of the end. You know, you got to pay attention. I paid special attention to between '94 and '95.
Mm-hmm.
And in '94, she was really sad. Oh, and one thing I noticed too was she was doing her interviews. And you will see, randomly, in one interview she'll be really, really, really happy, like the Arsenio show. And then some she'll be so down where she wouldn't half look at the camera. She'd be looking on the ground, just looking, you know. Mm-hmm. So it was up and down. And she accredited her up and down to her zodiac sign, which was Cancer with a Sagittarian moon and rising. She said, mm-hmm. with that, it's either extremely high or extremely low. There's no middle ground. But, honey, that's also bipolar. So... Mm-hmm. Double-edged sword.
Yeah, that's bipolar up and down, but she didn't really talk much in the press about being bipolar, and didn't always want to admit that was a struggle of hers that she faced. So I can see her blaming it on being a Cancer.
Yeah, but she was a sweetheart, and she did a lot of remember she was doing a TV appearance to help children, something about children. She was on there just talking about how we needed to give the money so the children can. I think it was for hungry children or something. Mm-hmm. So I just want you all to get a impression of the type of person that she was. Very giving, very loving. You know, don't just highlight the fact that she was off the hook. That was just one facet of Phyllis Hyman. She was very complex, multi-layered. She was. Mm-hmm. Jason, ain't that right?
That's very right. She'd give you a shirt off her back. She was a very kind, loving, and giving person.
Okay. Her most successful song was "Don't Want to Change the World," right?
That was her first and only number one. Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand, and no shade to anybody who likes that song, but that was so not Phyllis. The song, it was so poppy, and just that was for somebody who, I don't know, Jason, what you got to say?
It was the era of New Jack Swing, and so right. It had that New Jack Swing beat, and it fit right into the era, but it was not. It was a very Phyllis Hyman-ish song. It was Phyllis Hyman doing what Phyllis Hyman had to do to get a number one hit, but it was not Phyllis Hyman being true to her artistry. And I think that was a bitter pill for her too. That she couldn't get to number one doing Phyllis Hyman. She had to play the game. She finally learned to play the game, and she had to do what was expected, what was popular at the time. And she got to number one, so she could say she had a number one record, but. it wasn't a popular song with fans. It really got dissed by the critics. It was universally slammed by the critics, and it was sort of sad that she had to resort to that to get a hit.
Jason, somebody has a question for you.
All right.
Somebody said,
"Bring it on."
Somebody said, "How did she get the name Queenie?" But they also be calling her Pepper. So how did she get those nicknames? Do you know?
Well, she got the name Pepper H because of her fiery temper. Her initials, PH, Phyllis Hyman, Pepper H, and that was her code name on the walkie-talkie system that they used for the concerts, backstage. So she called Pepper H her fiery side. You didn't want to include the wrath of Pepper H. So that was the fiery side of Phyllis and her nickname on the walkie-talkie system.
Okay. And Queenie, you know anything about the nickname Queenie?
I mean, I don't know nothing about the nickname Queenie. I had a dog named Queenie once, so I don't know nothing about no Phyllis Hyman Queenie.
I never heard that in my research. I've never seen her nickname being Queenie, so this was a question that was asked. Jason, were you able to get into the chat room?
No, my slow ass couldn't get there. I'm looking for it. They tell me it's on the same page, but does it actually say chat, or what does it say?
Yeah. Did you scroll all the way to the bottom?
All the way to the bottom in the blue bar for Blog Talk Radio?
No, just scroll, like, when you on the page, scroll to put your mouse down, scroll all the way, because that's the way it is. It's the bottom of the page. If you scroll.
See, what I see at the bottom of the page says Blog Talk Radio, and it's in a blue box.
All right, okay, scroll up there.
And then it shows your past comments about your previous guests and your on-demand shows.
Okay, click into the show that we actually doing right now, the Intriguing Life of Phyllis Hyman. Click into that. But you might have to turn your computer down.
I got the volume down.
Okay.
Okay, I clicked into that.
Okay, now scroll down to see if you see the chat.
It says it's connecting. Maybe this
okay,
is...
good.
Yeah,
so
I'm there. I see it.
Cool. So you can interact with the people, too.
Sure, I'll do that.
Good. If you guys want to call in, 347-327-9592. What I've elected to do is just make this episode strictly conversation. And the episode tomorrow is going to be all Phyllis Hyman music, because somebody said, are you going to play her songs? Because I love her music. I can't do that right now because I want to get a clear understanding of who she was. So tomorrow when you hear that voice, you'll be like, damn, she was talented. And I want to say, too, that she could sing on cue without no preparation. Like, she could sing her heart out on cue. I remember one time they pulled her on stage. She was sitting in some type of audience, and Nicole Ari Parker was a part of that. It was some children. And they said, Phyllis, won't you come sing with us? And they had her stand up, and she told the girls to scoot over because Phyllis was big at the time. She's like, scoot over. So she was standing up there. They pointed to her, and she sang. And I want to make it clear that although she committed suicide, she was a firm believer in God. Don't get it twisted. Don't make it think like she was an atheist or somebody who worshipped the devil. No, nothing of the sort. She was a strong believer in God. And, as a matter of fact, one of the things her suicide note said was, may God bless you. Come on, Jason.
It sure did. It said, may God bless you. And to those of you that I love, you know who you are. Sure did.
Yes. I want to thank you all for being here. Let's see. So we are moving right on into, we talked about School Days. Shout out to Spike Lee. And she was also in a movie called The Kill Reflex, which was a Lifetime movie?
No. It was a movie that, it was called Soda Cracker was its theatrical release name, but in the States it primarily went directly to home release, and it was renamed The Kill Reflex. Okay.
So let's move up into Prime of My Life. It's a lot to talk about with Prime of My Life. It's a lot. That came out circa 1991 and had hits such as Don't Want to Change the World and I Found Love, which I love that song. Jason, what are your top 3 favorite Phyllis Hyman songs?
Meet Me on the Moon. The Answer Is You. And picking that last third, that would be, it's not difficult. It would be Come Right or Not at All, which was an unreleased song they released posthumously on the Forever With You album. I
can't find that album. I got Rhapsody. It's not on there. I wonder if it's on Amazon.
You can probably find it on Amazon or go on eBay and pick up a used copy.
Okay. Okay, good. I need to. But she was never a big seller. Got somebody. Oh, I have a caller. I wonder if they want to. Let me see if they want to say something. Let's see. Thank you for tuning in to Intro to everybody. Jason, look at the chat room is packed.
Yes, it is. I'm logging in right now.
What's up, y'all? Let's see. Let's get this caller on the line. Thank you for calling the Intro to Info.
Hi, this is Wanda Woods. How are you?
Hey, Wanda, I see you in the chat room.
Yes, I ran into you all for another reason, but you talk about my girl. I can't leave you. Yeah, you just talking about acapella. The first time, I just wanted to share this because it was just so remarkable. The first time I saw her, we were at Lincoln Center. She had to be maybe in her early 20s. And she had just started singing, and the power went out in the building. Well, people were looking around. She said, "Excuse me, the party is not over." Everything went acoustic at that point, and she finished the entire concert singing without any music. That girl lit up that room. Avery Fisher, I can't. Every time I talk about it, I get chills. That's when I knew she was going to be a somebody. The most amazing voice ever. The most amazing. That's when I started following her. I just wanted to share that with y'all.
Thank you for sharing. That's great. Yeah.
Oh,
Phyllis Hyman couldn't let a little thing like the power going out stop her from finishing her show. The show must go on.
yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Wanda, I remember one time she had a bad cold, and it was in '94, and she said, after one of the songs she sang, she said, "Yeah, and I'm still singing my butt off, and I got a bad cold." It's like it was like she was self-assured, but at the same time had low self-esteem. She was so like, you know.
Yes.
Well, thank you for calling in, sweetheart.
You're so welcome.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, I'm listening to the rest of the show now. Y'all take care.
You too.
And thank you, Jason. Thank you for this. This is a gift
welcome.
to us.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
All right. Nichelle's here. Thank you for coming in, Nichelle. Nichelle helped to promote the show. Thank you, baby. She said to Wanda, that was an incredible story. And, that's Jason. Jason said, hi, is everybody enjoying the show? One critic said, this is very interesting, if she had been happy, I don't know if Phyllis Hyman would have been as interesting.
Well, I'm not sure if she would have been as interesting either, but I would have wished that Phyllis be happy, even if she was a little less interesting. I think happiness is something she searched for all of her life, and she could not find any lasting or meaningful happiness. And I hope wherever she's at now, she's found that.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk Phyllis fashion. That damn Cassandra McShepard put Phyllis in some of the nicest get-ups you ever want to see. She looked regal with that tall statuette 6'1" frame, and Cassandra had her as sparkly and black and red and hats. Right, Jason?
Oh, we call them the crowns. They call them the crowns, those wraparound hats, those crowns. And the big linebacker shoulder pads. Yes, regal is the word. She looked like an Amazon goddess. Yes, she did.
Yes, indeed. I loved it. Yeah, if y'all got any questions, yes, Jason said if y'all got some questions, please don't hesitate to ask him because he the master of this. I'm just a little bug in the thing. Oh, wait till we fast forward. Okay, so Glenda, her manager said that they had done 5 interventions because Phyllis had been to rehab. And then she had attempted suicide once in '89 and once in '90 with no success. And also, the day before she died, there's a lot to say about that, but the day before she died, she told her ex-boyfriend, I tried this before and I didn't know what I'm doing. This time I do know what I'm doing.
About her suicide. Mm-hmm.
About her suicide, yeah.
When Phyllis actually managed to take her life in 1995, it was actually her 3rd suicide attempt. And she had learned from the past 2 attempts. She did obviously know what she was doing and knew how to do what she wanted to do. And she did warn people that it was coming up, and she did try to, make peace with certain people and say her goodbyes and prepare herself. It had been in the planning for quite some time, and I think she had originally meant to do it on her birthday. And she had planned to play the show. She actually took her life on the same day she was scheduled to play the Apollo Theater with the Whispers. Mm-hmm. And she had people coming in that were going to see the show. She had invited to see the show, but something happened that caused her to fast forward her plans and to rush her plans. I don't know. She thought she had maybe spoken about it to too many people, that someone was going to try to stage an intervention, but something caused her to fast forward her plans, and she didn't play that last show. And she took her life right before sound check, and she knew what she was doing. She obviously did.
Jason, I'm sorry, but what is an intervention exactly?
An intervention is when your friends and loved ones get together and try to help you see the destructive behavior you're doing and encourage you to get help or treatment for it. And an intervention had been staged for Phyllis years earlier with her management and her boyfriend at the time, Tad Finar, and that got her into rehab the first time. Phyllis actually went to rehab twice. So Phyllis had already had an intervention staged on her behalf once before, and I don't think she was going to allow that to happen again. Nothing was going to stop her from doing what she wanted to do. She said she wanted to give herself the gift of peace for her birthday, and she was tired, as she said in her note. She was very, very tired, and she just couldn't go on. 30% of those who are diagnosed bipolar die by suicide, and Phyllis, unfortunately, was one of those statistics.
Well, yes, indeed. Particularly interesting, Jason, was that suicide crest that was in your book.
Yeah, she made that in her second trip to rehab in the Willow down in Florida. She actually made a suicide a crest as one of her instructions, a drawing that I was able to put the picture of in the book, and it showed all the pressures that Phyllis felt she was facing with the drugs and the alcohol and the liquor and her depression. And I still have that crest. I don't, of course, display it because it's not something I would want to see every day, but it's one of my treasured possessions, and I do still have it.
Yeah, in the middle of the crest, everybody, it said suicide, and some of the things that she wrote down were pills and quaaludes and why me, and she said fuck you, and it broke my heart to see that. And then she had a picture of a martini glass, and it said martinis. And it really, that hurt me to see that. That was one of the most painful things. That probably brought me down for a couple of days. I said, okay, now it's starting to sink in. And particularly interesting is mental illness ran through her family. And like her mom, she was had suffered from chronic depression, and Phyllis had bipolar and chronic depression. And Phyllis had two siblings who also suffer from bipolar disorder, one who suffers from chronic depression and one who suffers from schizophrenia. So mental illness did run throughout her family. Oh, wow, schizophrenia, Jason. Let's touch upon that. Donnie Hathaway had schizophrenia, and he killed himself. He took his life on my birthday, as a matter of fact. Jumped out of the window of the Essex House Hotel in New York City, not too far from where Phyllis lived. What hotel?
The Essex House Hotel.
And his wife said that he was a loving man, but when he was not medicated, he was impossible. And me, I've dealt with a lot of, like, I tend to fall in love with people with mental illness. I ain't gonna lie. It's something about people with mental illness that just gets me going. Anyway, I see what the wife meant, because when they're down, it's like it's no matter what you say, no matter what you do, they have their mindset, and you can't change it.
That's true.
It's something. Let's see. Her stage presence was off the chain. Let's talk about her live performance of What You Won't Do for Love on one of those late shows. Shall y'all go YouTube What You Won't Do for Love, when Phyllis had on that black gown and her hair, she didn't have on no hat, she had her hair out, and she was looking in the camera.
She didn't have her hair out. She had somebody's hair out, but that wasn't her hair out.
Oh, crazy. And somebody said, one of the people who used to go on the road with her said Phyllis had all these wigs, and she would just toss them behind her door. And one of the guys tried on the wig. She said, you better take that off because it's synthetic. I said, lady is off the hook. So you remember that performance, Jason?
That was on the David Letterman show when she was wearing the denim outfit.
She was black.
When she sang What You Won't Do?
Yeah, What You Won't Do for Love. Yeah, when she was younger.
I remember she sang that on the David Letterman show, and she was wearing a denim outfit. She sang When You Get Right Down to It wearing a black outfit on the Arsenio Hall show. I know.
I'm going to have to see you the link to when she sang What You Won't Do for Love in a black dress that she had on heels, child. She was a knockoff, and she was giving the camera these seductive-ass looks. And I was like, oh, my gosh, look at her. Like, she was so confident on stage. She was very confident on stage. She had this presence about her. One of the people who went on the road with her, they was like, anywhere we went, when we walked into the room with Phyllis Hyman, everybody would be looking and the room would be buzzing. I said, I know that's right.
Yeah, Phyllis Hyman was an attention getter with her height, which was usually accentuated by the heels she'd be wearing, or the crown, or the hair. And she was just amazingly beautiful, luscious lips, beautiful almond-shaped eyes. She was a stunner, and all eyes would be on her when she walked in the room.
Yeah.
It's just a shame she didn't realize how beautiful she was inside and out, that she couldn't see her own beauty. That's the tragedy.
That is the tragedy. If I was her, I'd be the most arrogant thing walking, child. By Clive Davis, if he draw me, I wouldn't give a fuck, because I knew I had the talent and the beauty, and she had a nerve to have trouble finding a man. I would be the biggest whore. I would. Looking like that, please. I would not be in a relationship. But anyway.
Well, don't believe the hype. Phyllis Hyman didn't have trouble finding a man. Phyllis Hyman could have many men, any man she wanted, and she had many men, many fine men. Phyllis liked light-skinned brothers with facial hair who had some height to them, who were as tall as she was, and she liked them young. She said she didn't like anything old but some money.
Okay.
But she had many of them, and then, of course, she also had a very long-time female companion, which we talk about in the book. So it wasn't that Phyllis couldn't find someone to love, it's that she didn't love herself enough to sustain these relationships. And again, like I talked about earlier, sometimes the good things scared Phyllis. So when things were going too good, she would, therefore sabotage them to regain control of the situation. She's in this relationship, it's going good, it begins to trouble her or worry her. How long is this going to last? Is this going to end? Do I deserve this? Am I good enough for this? And so she would take it as far as she could before she would ultimately sabotage it, and that would mean the end of the relationship.
I just don't understand why. If you wanted it so bad, why would you ruin it if it's good? But that's,
Because the good things can be frightening. The good things bring their own set of fears with them. Do I deserve this? Am I good enough for it? Am I meant to have this? How long is this going to last? If I relax into this, is it going to be taken away from me? Will it be gone tomorrow? The good things can bring their own set of fears.
Point taken, Jason. Let's talk about her facial expressions. She had this thing that she would do during interviews. Jason, do you know what I'm talking about? I'm going to tell you if you don't know.
Tell me.
She would widen her eyes when somebody was talking to her. It was just weird. She used to always
Yes, I know what you mean.
Why was she? It's cute, but it's like, I can't see you. I'm like, it's like the opposite of squinting. It's like you open your eyes all the way. And she did it like almost every interview. I would be cracking up. And she would do little stuff like stick her tongue out when somebody was talking to her. Or when somebody would ask her a question, she would like put her hand on her chin, like what? Like what do you want to say? Like that. It was
right.
That type of stuff. It's almost like she really want to be there sometimes.
And I'm sure sometimes she didn't.
Yeah.
But she showed up and did what she had to do.
Yeah. I want you guys to go to YouTube and just watch her interview with Phyllis. You'll see what I mean. How she used to widen her eyes. And she had huge, big eyes, and she blinked real slow. You got y'all cutting me up in the chat room. Somebody said whore. Yeah, I would. Shoot, if I look like Phyllis Hyman, I don't want to say whore, but I will be running through the boys and the girls just like she. Might have been shit. I ain't got no shame in my game, just like she though. Jason. I loved it when I heard that part. Was they said she had a lot of was she engaged in the early 90s? Because she said she was on the Donnie Simpson show.
She was engaged. She was engaged to a brother named Dante James, who we interview in the book, and who she mentioned when she was on the cover of Jet magazine.
Okay. Oh, and she had this one characteristic about her. She could be so reclusive. There would be times where she wouldn't leave her apartment for months at a time. This is what she said out of her mouth. She would just sit and look out the window, or she would just watch soap operas day in and day out, watch TV and read. She had a very reclusive quality about herself sometimes, and yeah.
Yeah, she could be reclusive. That part of that would be the depression, when she was in a down cycle and was experiencing depression. She wouldn't feel like doing anything, and she'd shut herself in her apartment. And she often said the only man she met was a delivery man who brought her food, because she would go through long periods where she didn't feel like getting out.
Yes. She didn't really want to be a mother, and she wasn't crazy about marriage from what I heard her say, but she was interested in adopting, because she said she wanted a child who didn't feel love to feel love if she would have brought that child into her home. Right? Remember that part, Jason?
She had a lot of love to give a child. She did love children, and children loved her, but she knew her limitations, and she knew, and I applaud her for knowing that motherhood was not for her. She used to say motherhood is not for everyone, and she knew motherhood was not for her.
Right. And then she went to say about Paula Abdul and Jodie Watley. She said, to be honest, she said Paula Abdul is a big time joke. That's her, and I quote. And she said how can they be more successful than me? But again, we go back to the music that she said I don't want to sing poppy love songs because I don't know anything about that in my personal life. What I know about is heartbreak. So I want to sing songs that are about heartbreak and ballads and stuff that's going to emote probably sorrowful feelings in others.
But again, Phyllis was not being entirely truthful when she said that. Mm-hmm. Phyllis knew a lot about love. Phyllis received a lot of love from a lot of people. She had many long-term relationships, as I mentioned. It's just she was afraid of love, and she didn't have that self-love she needed to maintain it. And so that often caused her to have sort of a bitter view of love. But, a lot of people, when they talk about the suicide, like to say, oh, Phyllis Hyman took her life because she didn't have no man, and that cannot be farther from the truth. That has nothing to do with really why Phyllis took her life. Phyllis knew a lot of love in her life. She had a lot of very quality people in her life who tried to love her, but Phyllis Hyman was not an easy woman to love at times because she just didn't know how to love herself.
Exactly right. If you're just tuning in, I see people coming into the chat room. We have Phyllis Hyman's biographer on the line with us, and we're talking about the life, the times, and the legacy of the one and only unmatched talent, Phyllis Hyman. There's something I forgot to mention. If you guys want to call in and say anything about her life, her legacy, feel free. 347-327-9592. Shoot, I have so much information. It's coming and going, Jay, so help me out, baby.
Just take your time. Just let it flow. I told you if you've been drinking this Moscato like I was, you'd be relaxed now. You'd be mellow. You'd be good. So just take it nice and easy.
Can you give me an E-cup?
I wish I could give you an E-cup. Girl, there's just enough left in the bottle for one more glass. It would have been yours.
Oh, my God. I got to go get my damn Jack Daniels. Okay. And she was the type. Oh, she said,
everybody out there, raise your glass for Phyllis right now. You should get your drink on for Phyllis. Have a nice cocktail for Phyllis. She'd appreciate that. Raise your glass to Phyllis Hyman right now.
Yes. I got Phyllis as soon as I get off the air. I would go now, but I wanted to light a candle for her life because the music will never die. The music will not die.
The music will never die. The melody will linger on, and it will always live, and Phyllis Hyman will always live in the hearts and souls and minds of those who love her. And it is my hope that people will continue to discover her every day. And as you said yourself, you're a very young woman, but you're a fan. She continues to make new fans every day, and hopefully my book will be out there for a tool for the next generation and generations to come to learn about how fantastic this woman was.
Indeed so. Okay, she said that she's not the type to ask somebody to come back. If somebody wants to leave her, she'll say bye. And sometimes in my girl Ashley, she's on the line. She tells me that my pride is going to be my downfall because I'm probably like Phyllis in that respect. I used to be the type to reconcile, but I came to a point in my life where somebody don't appreciate me, and it's time to walk.
But again, that was not Phyllis's circumstance. She was appreciated by these people. She could not accept the appreciation. She could not understand why they loved her so, or why they would put up with her, or why they would tolerate her. Phyllis Hyman was enormously hard on herself, and she could also be hard on those that she loved. Phyllis Hyman was a difficult woman to love. But I do want to dispel the myth that she did not know love, because she certainly did, and her pride was a factor at times, but she wasn't against trying to make amends. I mean, she went on the cover of Jet magazine and said, "The man I loved, I made him not want me, and now I'm all alone." So she went back and forth between trying to project this image of strength and confidence and control to being very weak and vulnerable and open about her hurt. But I called the book Strength of a Woman, which is the title of a song that Phyllis sang. But the truth is, the strength for Phyllis was a projection. It was a mask that she wore, and when she could no longer keep the mask in place, when the facade was being shattered and people could see how really out of control she was, that's when she ultimately chose to extricate herself from the situation and take her own life, because she couldn't maintain the illusion of control anymore. Phyllis Hyman was incredibly strong for fighting the battle as long as she fought, but her reserves were depleted, and she just could not go on any longer, and that's when she chose to take herself out of the pain.
Right. One of the people said, what's the e-cup? Okay, like an email, it's electronic. I need an e-cup. You know, I need
email, e-book, e-cup.
There it is. That's what an e-cup is. I think that's Michelle asking there, but that's what it is. And I need one right now. Okay? I need one. But if you guys are enjoying the show, let us know how you feel. Let me see. We'll talk about favorites. Let me run down some of my favorite Phyllis songs. You Know How to Love Me. I Found Love. This Too Shall Pass. Oh my gosh, that song is haunting, beautiful, and it's uplifting. And I wish she would have taken her own advice on that song. This Too Shall Pass Away. The Longest Night Becomes the Day. It's a song about...
Hold up your head and say this too shall pass away, yes. That was a song that brought Phyllis a lot of strength and a lot of comfort after losing her mother and her grandmother. Phyllis knew what to do to help herself, but she just couldn't take those steps. She just couldn't do the necessary work to sort of exercise her demons, and her demons got the best of her. It's like I said it earlier last hour, I'll say it again this hour. And the moral of Phyllis Hyman's story is you either take care of your issues or your issues will take care of you. These things that are deep inside of you, you think if you just don't pay them any attention, they'll go away, but they won't. As adults, we're charged with finding out what it is inside of us that's holding us back, that's stopping us, and dealing with them. And Phyllis just ultimately could not do that, and the issues overcame her. They overtook her and left her feeling that she had no option other than to take her own life, and that is so wrong. And Phyllis is so missed. If she could have only seen, how beautiful she was and how loved she was, and had the courage to take those steps, toward recovery, she would have still been with us today.
Right, and we're going to talk about the reasons, some of the factors of the reason why she ultimately made that decision. But let's talk about her self-medicating, because Phyllis did not want to take those pills that they give to people with bipolar. She chose to medicate herself.
At the time that Phyllis was diagnosed as bipolar in the mid-'80s, there were much fewer medicinal options than there are today for treating bipolar disorder, and largely it was a matter of lithium, of just taking lithium. And many people, creative people like Phyllis, did not want to take lithium because they felt it dulled their senses, that it robbed them of their creativity. And so Phyllis did not want to take the lithium, and she instead self-medicated. She used alcohol, she used drugs, she used cocaine, she used shopping, she used sex, she used food. She used all these substances in an attempt to make herself feel better and to sort of get herself through the night. And of course, those substances don't help. They just compound the issues. So now you have the issue of mental illness compounded by the issue of substance abuse, and it's a vicious cycle that she could not escape from. And she was in rehab twice, but she could not maintain any lasting sobriety, which would have been necessary to really delve into the issues and do the talk therapy and to do the sort of inner healing work she needed to do while she was using substances. She needed to be able to maintain sobriety to do the work that was required, and she was unsuccessful in doing that.
Right. David Nathan, who is a journalist, he told Phyllis that you have some shady people around you. And she said, I know you ain't talking because you got some shady people around you too. So they kind of went back and forth. David Nathan had interviewed Phyllis several times, and they lived near each other. And one day he was going to interview her, and Phyllis, she got caught up in one of her mood swings one day. So he called her. He said, Phyllis, I'm running about 20 minutes late. And she said, do we have to do this today? I want to sit here and watch my soap operas. Well, just hurry up and get here. So he finally got there, and he said Phyllis was just sprawled across the bed watching soap operas, and they finally did the interview. But he said he knew her from the 70s up until her death, and that overall she was a really, really sweet person. But So he saw a lot of the mood swings and the altering and the personality and stuff, but he spoke highly of her. Actually,
David knew that she had her demons, and I interviewed David for the book.
Okay.
And David said that the book was able to actually bring a lot of closure to him regarding Phyllis. It brought him some peace, which I was very happy. I'm very blessed. Lots of people who were in Phyllis' inner circle came to me after reading the book and said that it was able to bring them some peace and some closure, which I thought was just a beautiful gift that God worked through me to give to these people who loved Phyllis so much. But yeah, it was when she said that, when she said she didn't feel like giving an interview, she wanted to sit here and watch her story. She was obviously in a depressed cycle. She didn't want to do anything. And anytime being a celebrity, when you have to be on, sometimes you don't always want to be on. And I'm sure there were times where Phyllis Hyman did not want to have to be Phyllis Hyman. She just wanted to stay up in that bed and watch her stories, and was overwhelmed by her pain. But she did the interview. She was a trooper. She made the best of it, and she gave him what he needed, and he wrote the story.
Right on. One of her best friends in the industry was Nancy Wilson, and Nancy said that Phyllis taught her a lot about singing, interestingly, because Nancy is much older than Phyllis is.
Nancy was actually Phyllis's idol. Phyllis looked toward Nancy Wilson as being the epitome of a singer, and she considered her idol. And so it's awesome if Nancy, in fact, said that Phyllis had taught her some things, because Phyllis looked to Nancy as being the best of the best.
Right. I see you guys in the chat room talking. If y'all want to call in and say anything about the legacy or what she meant to you personally or your favorite song. Nichelle, I see that you want me to play something. Tomorrow is all Phyllis Hyman music, but today we're going to focus on the life so people could get a better understanding, more so than what Unsung was able to do. I want to dig deeper than Unsung was able to, even though they did a good job.
Unsung, they have a formula for their shows. And that's why certain people, I think it was Stephanie Mills, said she would never do Unsung, because they have a formula for their shows where they want to show rise to stardom, tragedy, decline, where are they today? And they oftentimes rely on the same handful of people to tell the stories. And, you can't really tell the Phyllis Hyman story. You can't really sum it up in an hour. It's much more complex than that. So it was a nice introduction to the Phyllis Hyman story, but it was not the full deal. And, of course, you can only find the full deal in reading my book, which you can find at www.phyllishymanstory.com. I had to throw that in. Back to you, Mikeisha.
I love it. Boy, you sound good. You sound damn good. Okay. All right, so let's talk about some of the reasons why Phyllis was so depressed and why. One of the reasons was the IRS, and I have an interesting story behind that. She had some financial woes. Some of them were with the IRS, and she said that she wanted to write a letter that would get to the IRS after she had committed suicide, and she wanted a letter to say, y'all could kiss my ass. Woo, she was so funny, I'll tell you. She kept a smile on my face, and she also kept me down in the dumps. But I just love it. I sympathize with her, empathize, because the talent was off the chain. You guys, tomorrow, make sure you tune in because we will play Phyllis from just the whole show, dedication to her, a musical dedication. It's a 2-part series. She's getting her just due. And so, okay, you had the IRS, you had the financial woes. That was one of the reasons why Phyllis was down in the dumps, circa 94, 95, okay? And then you had the career. She felt like a lot of the younger teeny boppers were on the scene. They were making all the money and having all the attention. And she felt that she didn't have a place. She said, I'm just existing. I don't have a place here anymore. Jason, you could back me up, but I'm going to keep going. And then the personal troubles, she didn't have a man at the time, I don't think, and she just felt lonely. And she named her album,
she named her last album while she, or not her last album, the first album that came out posthumously was called I Refuse to Be Lonely. And again, much like Prime of My Life, that was an example of Phyllis saying it how she wished it were, not as it actually was. Phyllis was very lonely, truth be told. She was deeply lonely, but she didn't want to project that image. She wanted to once again project an image of strength for her fans and her followers, and I Refuse to Be Lonely told the story the way she wished it was, not the way it really was. It has a powerful message, but even her delivery of the song is so hauntingly sad that even though the message is a powerful message saying, I refuse to be lonely, you hear the ache and the pain in her voice when she sings it.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm talking about some of the phone calls that she made the night before her death and a couple of days before, basically a couple of hours before her death. Her ex-boyfriend, Danny Poole, said he called her and told him of her plans. And he said, Phyllis, you're too young to die. Phyllis hung the phone up on him. But that conversation, she said, a gun.
Well, you couldn't talk Phyllis Hyman out of doing what she wanted to do. You just couldn't. So tell her you can't do something. It's like talking to a brick wall. So she didn't want to hear you can't take your life. She knew she was going to. So she hung up the phone on him. Yeah. And she was contemplating. She was making light of her life. He said she was jovial, and she was really happy about her decision to die. To end her life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. To end her life, and she told Danny a gun would be the best way to go, but I don't have one. She said, I ain't about to jump out the 33rd floor window because it would hurt all the way down. Right. It would hurt all the way down. And so she said, I'm just going to take some pills and go to sleep. And so when Phyllis was about to get off the phone with Daddy, she said, oh, my food's here. I got to go. My food's here. It's like it's almost like, I don't know, Jason. I have to go because my food is here. Well, I told you Phyllis Hyman loved her food. You weren't going to get between Phyllis Hyman and her food. Okay. Between Phyllis Hyman and her chitlins, or Phyllis Hyman and her sautéed chicken livers, or any of those things. You weren't going to come between Phyllis and her food. And she was doing what she thought she needed to do. She was saying goodbye to Danny. She thought she had done that. And even though she knew she was going to take her own life and she was happy about that, she was also happy that her food was at the door, so she had to go. Right. Time to get her grub on. Right. Oh my gosh. I read that. I said, what? So anyway, Chisholm, she called Chisholm and said she told him she was going to do that, and he said, why? She said, you choose to be here and I don't. She very much felt like it was her life and her right and her prerogative to take herself out if she chose to do so. It was her life to do with what she wanted, even if that meant to end it. She very much believed that. She was very much an advocate for suicide, the rights of one to commit suicide. She was a big fan of Jack Kevorkian, and she felt it was her body and her right to do with it as she pleased. Right. And her sister said at one of her funerals that Phyllis had other people around her who weren't out for her best interest. You know, I don't know if I would agree with that. What I would say to that is that dysfunction attracts dysfunction. And when you are dysfunctional, you therefore attract to your midst people who are also dysfunctional. And Phyllis Hyman was in a lot of pain and had a lot of issues, and so therefore some of the people who got closest to her also were in a lot of pain and had a lot of issues. But Phyllis Hyman, I cannot stress enough, was surrounded by love. She was surrounded by people who loved her, her management, her family, her staff, all the people that worked for her were on the road with her, Leo Lord, Bill Schultz. She had people who truly loved her, and they wanted to help, but what can you do? When someone has made the decision to end their life, they're going to do, if they want to do that, they're ultimately going to do that. They tried to prolong it, they tried to put it off, they tried to help when they could, but she had made her decision and she wasn't going to be stopped. I think any celebrity is surrounded by a certain amount of yes people who are only going to tell you yes to whatever you want to hear. I think that's common to any celebrity. But what really is the alternative, saying no and being fired, So I think the people around Phyllis can be credited for keeping her going as long as she was able to keep going. That in many cases they kept her up and running and got her where she needed to be to do what she needed to do. But Phyllis Hyman was surrounded by people who loved her. Jason, I just got an interesting text message. Ashley said, I don't know if I can continue listening to this. I'm trying. And I said, why? She said, I'm in tears because I know everything this woman felt, in all caps.
So I want to encourage you to stay. That's the point of me telling you every day. I said, you got to listen to this story. You got to listen. So she said, why did you choose her? I said, once I'm done with this show, you'll understand. So now you're seeing it. Don't cry. Don't cry, because Phyllis, like we said, she was happy to take it.
I'm not even going to say don't cry. I'm going to say if you need to, cry it on out, but hang out with us. Don't go nowhere. There's something to be learned here. You can understand what she was going through. I appreciate that. But we're still here, and we have to persevere for Phyllis and let people know that there is hope, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that there's a better choice to make than taking yourself out of it. You can stay and fight, and that's what I do every day. That's what people with bipolar across the country do every day, and that's what you have to do. God put you here. You have to stay here, and you have to fight. I'm very sorry that Phyllis chose ultimately to give up the fight. I don't judge her for doing so. She made the decision she felt was right for her. But to anyone who's still here, I encourage you to stay here and keep on fighting.
Okay, exactly. She said it's bringing up my suicide attempts, how I felt. Okay, I know. Okay, if you have to go, actually, I get it. But
there's someone else in the chat room who mentioned she had suicide attempts under her belt. I mean, if she can't listen, I can understand that. But she should be with people who are sharing her pain, and the people in the chat room, the people who are listening, the people who know what we're talking about, and are sharing the pain. And you made suicide attempts, okay, but you're still here. You're still fighting a good fight every day. I dedicated the book to Phyllis' siblings because I said they get up and fight the good fight every day. As we talked about, 2 of them diagnosed with bipolar, 1 chronic depression, 1 schizophrenia, and yet they get up every day and they fight the good fight, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, actually, Nichelle said it's okay to allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling. That's part of the reason I want to tell this story, because you and I are so close, and I have a lot of friends with, the mental illness, and it hit home. Just everything has hit home with this research on Phyllis. It's stuff that I've gone through, stuff that I've seen, and so I get it. Ashley. Okay. Just wanted to tell her that.
Mm-hmm.
See, let's go back to the phone, the conversations that she was having. Like she said, the last time I didn't know what I was doing. This time I do. She was talking frankly about her life. She said a gun is the best way to go, but I don't have one. She said I'm just going to do a pill overdose. She said I'm just existing, and I don't want to go through another 46 years of living life like I had the first 46. She said July 6th was going to be a grand day. Oh, we got a caller. Let me get this thought out. 404, which is, I think that's Atlanta. But she said, don't try to talk me out of it, because I'll hang up on you. And that's just what she did. And yeah. So, okay, let me bring 404 in. I just want to get it clear and understand. All right, let's see. Then 1 second. Come on. Okay. Hey, welcome to Intro to Info. Oh, they hung up. I guess he just was listening. Okay. I guess. I know, Ashley. She said, I lived it. I still live it. I know, babe. I know. This is Jason. All right. Phyllis said, I'm not going to debate my life with people. 404, I'm going to try to bring you back in. Let me know if you want to talk or you're just listening. I'm not really sure. Let me see. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to Intro to Info. Hello, 404? Okay, I guess they just
Come on, 404, where did you go?
I guess they just want to listen, because this is a thing you could just call in just to listen, or you can call in to say something. I'm not sure what the intent of 404 is. But shout out to Atlanta. She said, okay, Phyllis said, I'm unhappy. The only bright light is to die, so I won't have to worry about a job and other people. I have no personal life and no energy. All I want to do is go. I'm trying to be nice and say goodbye to everyone, and everyone is trying to talk me out of it. So Danny responded, Phyllis, you're too young to die, and then she hung up. We called her back, and she said, I told you, if you try to talk me out of it, I'm going to hang up on you. So this is what her mind was just the day before she committed suicide. She was adamant. She knew what she wanted to do, and like Jason said, she did that just before she was supposed to appear at the Apollo Theater as an opening act for the Whispers. And the concert goers they were very sad, and Jason, help me out.
Yeah, many of them did not find out until they arrived for the show that Phyllis actually had taken her life. They didn't find out until they got to the venue. And some of them stayed, and some of them just couldn't take it, and they turned back and left. Phyllis's band actually played that night with a spotlight on the microphone and dedicated their performance to Phyllis. And it was the end of the music. It was a heartbreaking night. It was for Phyllis, hopefully, the end of her pain, but for her fans, it was just the beginning of it.
Yeah, and she told Danny, "You can't help. I'm not going to debate my life with you. You can't help me. I'm not going to stay around for people who will miss me. I never see them anyway. They'll get over it." Wow. Wow. She said the reason why he stopped dating her because she partied so much. She said, "I would leave her at 6 in the morning, sometimes still partying because she wasn't ready to go and I was." Yeah, for the time I liked the party, the guy Victor who used to go on tour with her said Phyllis ain't never have a drink too far away from her, and she could go all night long. She loved to party. A part of her, I feel like part of her loved life.
Part of her did love life, and she could be very jolly and ebullient in the life of the party, and she could also be on the opposite end of that spectrum where she just couldn't, get herself dressed and out the door. So again, it's all part of the bipolar spectrum.
Right. I want to bring Ashley on for a second. I just want to kind of get into her head and just to see what her reaction is to this, because she doesn't know who Phyllis is from the woman walking down the street. Ashley.
Yes.
Hey.
Hi.
I know that you don't know who she is, but hopefully after the show you have a better understanding of who she was, what she endured. And I know you and I are texting, but what's your reaction to this? What do you think? First of all, did you see any pictures of her?
Yes.
Okay. What's your reaction to this show? Did me and Jason do an okay job? And what was your reaction to her life and times?
I'm just hurt. How she felt, what she said, and everything is exactly how I felt for 19 years, I guess.
Which part got to you a lot?
Her wanting to die, her feeling like she had no reason to live, and her wanting to just go to sleep and not wake up.
And amidst all the success, the money, the looks, the yes people, the drugs and the alcohol, everything. It's like she at one point she had it all, and she still elected to
It
go.
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
And then they says mental illness doesn't have somebody who they target. If it's you, it's you. It don't matter how you look or what you're doing with yourself. If it affects you, it just does.
Mhm.
I hope this is partially therapeutic for you. There's therapy for you that you're learning something that will help you in your days to come.
I mean, it's probably a lot for Ashley to process. She's just hearing about this woman. This story is bringing up all of her pain and her issues and her hurt. And I can get that. All I can say is, we're praying for you, Ashley, and just encourage you to make a better decision than Phyllis did, and to keep fighting and keep waking up every day and fighting a good fight. And I've been there. I know what you're going through. I deal with it every day. I was talking to people in the chat room. I wake up every day. I take my meds. I go to talk therapy every week, and I do what I have to do to keep myself here. And I keep fighting. I call myself a bipolar survivor, and I choose to keep surviving. And I'm going to do that for as long as I can.
There it is. Actually, the suicide note said, "I'm tired. I'm tired. Those of you that I love know who you are. May God bless you."
Mhm.
Just to say, "I'm tired" was a short sentence, and she emphasized it by saying it twice. And then, Jason?
Yep.
Okay. The family and management said in a statement, "We should all take Phyllis's death as a moment to reflect on our own individual lives and commit to reaching out to our loved ones, our communities, and to the rest of the world. Phyllis' death is a wake-up call for everyone in pain to know that there is no need to be alone in your pain and that you should get help for your pain. So that's what the family said. Yeah, this is the part of the show that's not easy. Not easy for me either. I'm trying to hold on, but whew, yeah.
So what's next, Mikeisha? What's the next subject we're talking about? What's the next part of her life? Because we just said she lives. She still lives, so. Well, what's next? What are we going to talk about?
That's very true. Talk about the process of writing the book. Because I want to write. I'm a writer, but I just feel like my head is all over the place, and I don't think I have the attention span to do it, Jason.
Writing the book was like putting together a puzzle. And when you put together a puzzle, at least when I put together a puzzle, I start with the outside of the puzzle. I put the frame of the puzzle together, and then I begin filling in pieces around the frame until you eventually get to the center. So writing this book was very much like putting together a puzzle. I started with the people who were on the outside, who were on the fringe, who knew her for short periods of time or had just, short stories to tell. And then as I spoke to those people, I began to go in more and more to the middle, the people who were closer to her. The people on the outside helped me form the questions to ask the people on the inside. I just kept going, deeper and deeper into it until I got to the people who were closest to her. And everyone had a piece of the puzzle. Everyone that I spoke to gave me a piece of the puzzle. And I think I was able to put the pieces together, to connect them. That was my job, to connect all these pieces, to put these pieces together so that people could see the clear picture of who Phyllis was. And as I said, it took me 5 years to do it. It was a dream 10 years in the making because I wanted to do this from the time that Phyllis took her life in 1995, and it wasn't until 2007 that I was able to actually get the book out. So I really wanted to do this for a very long time, felt that I was meant to do this, and I got distracted or was told not to do it, but I just felt I had to do it, and so I did it. And I put the puzzle together, and I hope that I was able to put together a picture that's accurate, and from what I've heard, the feedback I've gotten, I did put together a very accurate picture, and it's a book that's been able to help a lot of people. And there's a lot of, I say that Phyllis's life, I learned a lot in looking at her life, and I hope Ashley can do the same thing. I was able to see some of the mistakes that Phyllis made, and it was able to help me make better decisions. You can look at what Phyllis did. You can learn from her mistakes, and you can make better decisions for yourself. You can avoid some of the pitfalls and potholes that she fell into, and make better decisions.
Yeah, that's true. Ashley's calling in from the phone, so she can't see what the chatters are saying. So I'm going to read Ashley what Wanda just said. Ashley, she said, "We're here for you, Ashley. Pain is part of the experience, but we fight through it. We sort through the layers so that we can emerge no longer in darkness, but with the sun in our faces to energize us as we fight the good fight, my sister." That's for you, Ashley. But Glenda said that Phyllis visited her shortly after she committed suicide. Let me read that. It's very interesting. She said people kept asking her why she decided to commit suicide. She said, "I can't answer that. The only person that can really answer that is Phyllis." And so Glenda said, "For those of you who may be able to relate to my feelings about what her motivations were, I share my feelings with you." And it says, "Let me start by saying that within 2 hours after Phyllis's death, she visited me in my office. When I heard her laughing, I asked her the very question you have asked me, to which she responded, because no one believed that I would. I then asked her, 'But do you see all the chaos and confusion your death has created?' She said, 'Handle it.' Then she giggled and left as suddenly as she arrived." And as you said, Jason, Glenda said Phyllis had a philosophy about life, death, and her body. Simply, she felt that it was her life, and so it was also her death. Because it was her body, she had the right to do with it as she chose, including leaving it behind when she was ready to. Very interesting. It says about 10 years ago, Phyllis was diagnosed with bipolar, a medical term for someone who suffers from the disease of manic depression. As she got older, her disease became more and more difficult to manage. So that's just, again, going into the mind of Phyllis Hyman. One thing about her that was so cute, she did not like to stay back in that dressing room before she was about to perform. Phyllis wandered into the audience. Phyllis ate off your plate. Phyllis gave you high fives and hugs. I saw this one video where she wandered into a late night show audience, and this woman said, "Can I have a hug?" And so Phyllis hugged her, and so the woman kind of kept grabbing. Phyllis had to pull the woman off of her. But yeah, she would wander into the audience in a minute, child, and wasn't ashamed to meet the fans. She loved to interact. She didn't like to be behind it. She said that dressing room was boring. So that's just a memory.
All right, for the memory, Mikeisha.
I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I'm so glad I was able to do this. I hope you guys learned something. Anybody who feels like Ashley, I hope we can have brought some peace to you. Again, if you want to order the book, Strength of a Woman, visit
www.phyllishymanstory.com.
Yes. Thank you guys for tuning in. Jason, thank you for being with me. You guys come back tomorrow for the musical tribute of Phyllis's life. And if Jason, do you have any closing words?
As we said, Phyllis lives, and those of us who love her, it's our mission to keep Phyllis alive and to spread the word and to tune new people into Phyllis, turn them on to Phyllis, and introduce them to Phyllis. And it was my pleasure to write the Phyllis Hyman story. I'm so glad that for whatever reason God chose me to do it. And it was the work of my life, one of the most important things I've ever done with my life. And I love Phyllis, and I hope that, as I said, my book is able to bring some peace and closure to people. And Phyllis lives, and the music will always live, and the melody lingers on.
Good. We got two people on the line. I'm not sure if they want to say anything, but I will try to see if they want to say something real quick. Jason, okay?
All right.
This area code is blocked in number, but welcome to Intro to Info.
Hello, Mikeisha.
Hey.
Hi, this is Tammy Joan Gibb. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for calling, Tammy.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
I am blessed, thank you. How are you?
Great. I just wanted to say this is a fabulous show. Phyllis Hyman was an icon to me. She brought me so much joy over the years through her music and her song. And like you was mentioned earlier in the show, Mikeisha, how she had the quick one-liners that was, she really, because I remember I saw Phyllis live at the Apollo in 91, and when she had came on stage before she got into her set, she was saying that she met a guy backstage. I don't know if he was security, and she was saying how good looking the guy was. And she said, "Oh yeah, I like a man who looked good in a uniform and have a job." She was just that kind of person. But what I missed most about her was the conviction in her voice, the emotion, and she had one of the best falsettos in the business. I mean, she could just. The way she sang and when you hear the melody and the words and the falsetto in her voice, no one could. There was no one like her.
And let's not forget the whistle.
Yes,
Phyllis had a whistle
yeah.
that was just incredible and would just send chills up and down your spine when she would whistle in the middle of a song.
Yes. So I just want to say thank you for having this show, and thank you, Jason, for writing this book. And I want to ask you, Jason, is there a way we can follow you on social media, like Twitter, or do you have a Facebook page?
I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/jason.a.michael, and my Twitter is at MrJam013, so MRJAM013.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, too. Jason, we're going to get you on Twitter active, too. I'm going to show you how to twerk Twitter, Jason, because it's really
all right,
fun.
you do that. Because I'm slow, but I'm eager to learn.
Thank you for calling in, Tammy.
You're welcome. Great show. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. 404, I'm going to try you one more time. I got somebody else on the line, but let me try 404 one more time. I don't know if you're listening. Let me see. I have put also... ATARAA, you on the line. Thank you for calling Intro to Info. Hello?
Hello?
Hey.
Can you hear me?
I sure can. Thank you for calling.
Hi, how are you today?
Good. It's all about Phyllis Hyman. What's good?
Yes, it is. My heart still aches when I think about Phyllis. I truly, truly adore her. My only question is, and I've always had this question over the years, with all her loved ones and everyone around her, and while she was making all these calls, stating that she was going to kill herself, why didn't they call authorities? Or, you know what I'm saying? It's always, yes, coulda, shoulda, coulda, it's after the fact, but did anyone call authorities? I mean, they just let her hang up the phone and just kept stepping? I mean, I don't get it.
I think those that were close to Phyllis knew that if you wanted to remain close to Phyllis, you had to respect her belief that it was her body and her right to do with it what she chose. Anyone that was close to her that got into her inner circle, whether it was her staff, whether it was lovers or someone she was involved with, they had to respect her belief on that issue. This was her third attempt, as we talked about earlier. She knew what she was doing. In earlier attempts, she had been stopped, and police were called, and she was stopped from doing it. But in this instance, I think it was because she thought an intervention was in the works, or that someone was going to stop her, that she moved up her plans. As I said, she planned to take herself out on her birthday, which was July 6th. She instead ended her life on June 30th, the same night she was supposed to play the Apollo Theater. So I think she was actually afraid that people were going to try to prevent her from doing this, so that's why she rushed the decision and she moved things up. But I will say this. If somebody wants to end their life, they're going to end their life. You can call the police. You can have them, forced into treatment or rehabilitation. But if someone decides that they want to end their life, they're going to do that. And Phyllis was a woman that, when her mind was made up, her mind was made up. And I don't think there was any stopping her. This was what she wanted to do, and I don't think there was any stopping her.
I understand that 100%. That's what she wanted to do, but I just feel like if that was my sister, I would have went to the end of the earth to save her. It's nothing I wouldn't have done. It would have probably been selfish for me not to let her go, but I wouldn't have let her go. I just wouldn't have. Just call me selfish then.
No, it's
I understand how you feel.
Right.
And if it was my sister, I would have probably done the same thing. But the other side of that coin is that if Phyllis knew that's how you felt, she might not have given you that goodbye call. You might not have known what was going on. She might not have even reached out to you because she wasn't going to be stopped. But I hear what you're saying, and I feel you, and I would have done everything in my power to save my sister too. But Phyllis Hyman was not going to be stopped.
Yeah, at some point, I just feel like with her, it was going to happen. One point, if somebody would have stopped that attempt, it would have been another one and another one. It just feel like that.
But that's not always the case because I've been there. You know what I'm saying? I've truly been there. I don't think it's so much you want to die. You just want the pain to stop. That's it. Been there. I'm not talking about anything I don't know about. I still struggle to this day. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like if she could have gotten help, maybe her frame of mind would have changed. It was the illness, and it was the pain that made her feel that way.
I think the key is you have to want to get help. Phyllis had been in rehab twice. She had twice previously tried to end her life. She had looked at various religions. She had tried to be sober and then been on, engaging in using alcohol and drugs. But I think she made a conscious decision that she did not want to be helped. She was not willing to do the work that was required to sort of ease her pain, to sort of get her through and past the situation she was in. I think she made a conscious decision that instead of going through her issues, she was going to opt out of it altogether and take herself out. You have to want to get help, and Phyllis Hyman didn't want to be helped. The help she wanted was peace, and she thought the only way she could find that peace was to take her life.
Believe me, I get where Phyllis has come from. Like I said, I've been there. I understand how Phyllis felt 100%. I understand why she felt that way. But when you're sick, of course you can't help yourself. You can't. It's impossible. You can't help yourself. No, you don't want help because you can't, and it's too hard. You can't do it. That's why I just don't, and I've always been angry at the fact that the people around her didn't get her more help. I don't care what nobody said. You can't help yourself. you're sick. And that's just the bottom line. Like I said, I'm not talking about anything I don't know. I've been there.
So you don't think that her people around her did enough?
They didn't. No, they didn't. They basically just agreed to let her take her life and left it at that. When she was sick, of course she felt that. Of course she wanted to take her life. Who wants to suffer every day? I've been there. It's pain that you cannot imagine. Waking up every day and feeling like your best friend, you just found out your best friend is dead, or you know what I'm saying? This is pain happening in her every day. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing you could do to talk yourself out of it. You try, you pray, you beg, you cry, and that pain does not go away. You get tired.
Right, which is what she said. Mm-hmm.
You know,
I think I'll go back to what I said a minute ago, which was dysfunction attracts dysfunction. And I think a lot of the people who were closest to her were actually fragile and broken themselves. And they loved Phyllis and wanted to remain close to her. And they knew that not supporting or not respecting her decisions would be to be removed from the inner circle. Phyllis would not tolerate it. She just was not going to let it happen. And I think as much as they possibly could, they did the best that they could to help Phyllis and to keep her going. Whether that was enough, whether they could have done more, I know many of those individuals who are closest to Phyllis, and I know that these are issues that they still suffer with and questions they still ask themselves. But I believe and I am convinced they did the very best that they could for Phyllis to honor her wishes, to keep her going. And they can probably be commended for keeping her here as long as they did, because, as I said, there were interventions. They did get her into rehab. They did, she could have made her exit at her first suicide attempt in the mid-'80s, but instead they kept her going for another 10 years. So they kept her going for as long as they could, and they did the very best that they could. But I think ultimately the decision was Phyllis's, and as I said, she was not going to be stopped.
I hear that. I just wanted to give my opinion on that. I just always felt like.
Thank you for that. Yes, babe. Yes.
Why don't you look at this message that our dear friend Kezia posted in the chat room and talk about that a little bit?
I'm trying. Thank you for calling in, sweetheart. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, I'm trying to. They keep talking, so it's harder for me to push it up. But let me get let me scroll up. Okay. Best wishes and kudos to this forum. Let's get behind ensuring that Jason gets his dues if there is a movie deal. Yes, let's speak on that. Okay, if you don't know what we're talking about, Jill Scott just bought the rights to Phyllis Hyman. What is it, the story? Bought the rights.
I don't know because I haven't. No one has told me. I don't know if she bought the life rights from the estates, from the estate of Phyllis Hyman. I'm not sure exactly, but all I would like to say is this. I've said this for years. Jill Scott is my first choice to play Phyllis. She always has been. I think she has the name recognition. She has the Philly connection. She has credited Phyllis as being her favorite singer for years. I want Jill Scott to play Phyllis. She's always been my first choice, and I've always told everyone that. So I think maybe if you hit Miss Jill Scott up on Twitter, which is at Miss Jill Scott, and tell her that if she wants to make the Phyllis Hyman story, she really needs to buy the film rights to Strength of a Woman, the Phyllis Hyman story, the book written by Jason A. Michael, because I don't see how a movie can be made without utilizing the book, and I would love to work with her to see that Phyllis's story gets told. So once again, it's at Miss Jill Scott on Twitter. Hit her up and tell her to get at me, because I'm waiting for her phone call.
Yes, and if you guys who do have Twitter, shout out to the Penthouse. Everybody who's in the house was very supportive tonight. If you all have Twitter, at Jill Scott, but if you could, at Jason in that same tweet, so if she wanted to access him, she'd be able to. Jason, put your Twitter up there again.
My Twitter is at Mr. Jam 013. So that's at MRJAM 013.
Okay, there it is. You guys, thank you so much. I'm going to try this 404 one more time because I'm not sure if you want to talk or anything, but 404, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm just fine. Did you want to say something or were you just listening?
Oh, I'm just sending love to all the PH peeps out there from the ATL.
Okay, thank you so much. You guys, we have 90 seconds, so I want to thank everybody for listening. Special thank you to Mr. Jason A. Michael. You guys tune in tomorrow because it's all about Phyllis Hyman music. I'm going to, somebody wanted to hear old friends, so I'll play that for y'all tomorrow. Some old stuff, some of the more current stuff, and we're going to keep the legacy alive. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Mikeisha. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, you guys, have a good night. Thank you.